Good afternoon and happy Friday, and welcome to Security Awareness Training. And it says it's 2022 on the slide, so it must be true. This is actually live. We're here. You can tell because I'm in an office, which I wouldn't have been in 2020 or 2021. It's kind of crazy to be in an office again. My name is Jake Milstein, and I'm in downtown Seattle, which sounds more like a confession than I wanted it to be. So every week we do security awareness training. And the background of this actually does have to do with the pandemic. So if you remember back to March, to this date, 2 years ago, everybody went home. And what we heard from our customers was, that because everybody went remote and everything, they just didn't have time to go, to do all of the things they usually do, train employees, security awareness training, all the regular cybersecurity annual things they do. Is such a crazy year. You might remember back, it was 2 years ago. Well, so we said, all right, you know what? We can help everybody and just do free security awareness training every Friday. Now it's every other Friday, but it's every Friday. And we thought we'd get like 30, 40 people. I just checked. We've trained more than 3,000 people. I was going to say 30,000 people, 3,000 people. And I was going to say 30,000, and here's why. At the end of this whole thing, there's a survey, and when you take the survey, you have a choice of either getting a gift card or donating that gift card. And we did donations to food banks last year. Folks who took the survey and donated the value of their gift card got. We were able to feed 30,000 people last year. So thank you for that. So anyway, security awareness training. Welcome everybody. And it looks like we have a lot of folks here today. So stick with us. There are prizes at the end. We just talked about that, or I just talked about that. Also being here, and more important than the prizes, is you're doing something good for the world. Like if we can stop clicking on links and stop giving money to the bad guys, you're not, and now we know, like, since the Russians are sort of the bad guys, we know they're really bad. Like I've always said, they're bad, but they're really bad. So you're doing something good for the world being here. Also, some of you are getting credit for being here. Your employer said to you, hey, you should go to this. And they're going to say, hey, did she show up or did he show up? And we're going to say, yes, they did. And over on the right, you can see there's a chat where Elise is making me angry because she's in sunny Northern California while I'm in cloudy Seattle. But go ahead and go to the chat and tell us where you are. We love to know where people are joining from. We've had people join from all over the world. And the other thing that's important about the chat is Elise and Jean-Luc Peck are in the chat. They're two of our security experts. Elise's picture, went too far forward. Elise's picture is there on the right. She's a social engineering black belt, which means that we pay her and clients pay her to trick employees so that they can then teach employees and teach folks not to be tricked. And so she and Jean-Luc will answer any questions you have in the chat. If you always wanted to know, like, hey, why shouldn't I click on those Facebook memes, or why shouldn't I do this, or why shouldn't I do that, or this happened, then you can ask him in the chat. Fred Langston is presenting today. Fred is one of our founders. He's EVP of Professional Services. He is a great speaker. And you're very lucky to have Fred here with you. Also, importantly, I run marketing, and my team designed his new background, so you'd better like it. All right, Fred, with that, take it away.
Okay. Jake, you already kind of gave him an introduction to why are you here. I think something that's not on this slide is that the world has become obviously a much more dangerous place from a cyber perspective when there's this level of instability. We normally say that because you have customer information, or you've got intellectual property, you've got regulated data, things that people want to steal, makes you a target. And certainly with economic sanctions in place, the motivation to steal has just gone up tenfold by the normal gangs from Russia in particular, who are the ones behind a lot of this. So their motivations have now gone up exponentially, frankly, from what they were before the current conflict. You're maybe in the public sector and you handle sensitive constituent data and you run critical services. Makes you another target, unfortunately. Truly, when they're talking about cyber warfare, they're talking about attacking critical infrastructure in particular. The fact that we haven't seen that yet might be seen as a good sign, but most people would say that it's maybe just a matter of time before this actually starts happening. We might actually be entering the most risky period for cyber attacks because it hasn't included that so far. You may be here because it's an annual requirement that you do training, and that's a really good reason. Everybody should do this. I love doing it because, frankly, it helps me stay sharp. You're stuck at home, you're bored, you need entertainment, but what are we really doing here? We're teaching a life skill. Okay, this is not something that just works when you're at work. This is something that matters when you're at home, when you're at the gas pump, when you're in the grocery store, when you're wherever you are, you're in the airport. All these places are cyber threats, and we're carrying around computers with data and access to our money and our sensitive data in our pockets. So what we're teaching here is something that you should take everywhere you go from now on, not just think about it as work training. Internet, what's it there for? Well, it may be something you think about how you use it, but it's there to sell stuff to you. It's there to steal from you, and it's there to manipulate your opinion, right? That's really what the internet does. That's why it's there. That's where the underpinnings and the motivations for why it exists, that's what it does. So keep in mind that you're not dealing with something that is benign. It is something that has a lot of danger associated with it. We take it for granted. We use it every day, but it's just as dangerous as hitting the highway. Every one of us takes a certain risk when we go out and drive down the freeway. What are they looking for? Well, mostly they're trying to steal your credentials, right? They want your password. But then again, they may be doing other things. They may be looking to manipulate you in other ways, maybe make you their money mule. Could be any number of things that they may be trying to do, but they're trying to get you to do things or give you things. So you're constantly being hit by this bait, and we're going to spend a lot of time giving you examples of what this stuff is. But it's not just email, right? It can be in your phone. Elise can design a campaign to, frankly, be more successful on the phone than she can doing a phishing social engineering exercise. So, you see this stuff, it's all over the news. I mean, we're front page. Cyber stuff is front page. Anything that's front page, like COVID or cyber attacks, are things that need our attention, right? We need to stay on top of this. We really need to stay ahead of it. So what are the things that they're trying to really do, right? There's three outcomes we're trying to avoid, right? We don't want to lose protected records. That might be our own identity. It may be the identities of others that our company processes. It could be other sensitive data like defense data, which is clearly at risk. We're at war, or the world is at war. And frankly, we're getting, some level of being involved in that. We have the normal motivations of theft, extortion, stealing money, stealing on intellectual property that can be sold. Maybe they're stealing just the computer power. We'll see that in what they call crypto mining in a minute. Or maybe they just want to disrupt your business, right? They just want to stop it from operating. This is exactly what we saw happening in Ukraine. They were not putting out ransomware. They were putting out what they call wipers that basically just destroy systems so they're not usable after that. And they can also just be using you as a launch point to attack other people. So let's talk about the types of things that you're going to hear. Ransomware, it's really extortion, right? Or terrorism. But it's basically where they're going to hold your stuff hostage. You won't be able to use it unless you pay us a bunch of money. So it is certainly one of the top risks out there right now. Everything, frankly, can be potentially susceptible to ransomware, but the ways it mostly happens is somebody has given up their password or clicked on an untrusted link or an attachment. That is the first step in how the ransomware commonly starts. This is where you have to be the first line of defense. If you make some of these mistakes, everything can be at risk through something like ransomware. There's also business email compromise, and this can be a number of things, but it's where somebody is using the email system to get one of the receivers of the email to believe something that's not true. For example, somebody is in the middle, somebody's compromised an email account and accounts payable, and they're watching as you're communicating to the people that you have payments sent into you. Well, when they watch when you send an invoice, they send out an email that says, hey, by the way, we have changed our bank account, send it to this bank. And of course, you're sending it to a bank in somewhere in Russia, and you've lost your money the second that that's happened. So that's a business email compromise attack that happens, frankly, constantly. You will see these, and you may also see the other type of attack where they're going to say, hey, I'm on the road, but I need you to send a bunch of gift cards to the CEO at this address. We know they're on vacation, but they've met up and they're doing some business, and they need these to hand out to potential clients. When, of course, you're just sending a couple $1,000s to somebody else who will use them and steal them from you. So how do these things happen? What do you see when one of these things comes in? Well, right here is a perfect example. This came in to Mike Hamilton, who you may have heard of, one of the co-founders of Critical Insight, to our CEO, Garrett Silver. And it says, well, actually, it went to Mike from Garrett Silver, and it said, Mike, I need some gift cards. Please send those out to me. This is a real email that came in. Of course, Mike is smart enough to read and realize that our CEO doesn't send email from AOL, right? So that's the dead giveaway on this one, that this is not real and trying to get you to do something that you shouldn't be doing. And they also, if they can't actually steal stuff, if they can still get access to a system, they may do something else. And they really like to do this on things that are called IoT, or Internet of Things devices. This world of all these devices out there that have small computers built into them are perfect targets to steal the processing power of those. So if I can get on there and mine cryptocurrency on millions of devices I've taken over, that are, maybe doorbell monitors or something like that have a camera in them, but I'm using them to mine cryptocurrency. Maybe they're not even functioning anymore because I'm using them the entire time, using them to mine stuff and send me of course, the proceeds of that crypto mining. So how does this stuff all start? How do these kind of attacks all begin? There's the break-in, which is basically there is some system that has an unpatched bug. You may have heard of some of these things. There's been a big Exchange server bug, and there was Log4j, which came out not too long ago, which is basically a bug that exists in an enormous amount of things and will take years to fix. Well, usually they find a way using these vulnerabilities in systems to then run what they call an exploit and hack their way in, right? It's how do I get in? I use a bug. I use a vulnerability in a piece of software that's exposed to me that I can see. So how do you do that? How do you keep things from not falling into this trap? You need to update regularly. So one of the most important things you can do at home, certainly at work, your IT team should be working to remediate vulnerabilities, but you need to know they're there. So Microsoft will tell you, when the update comes and says reboot, you should reboot. Same thing with your iPhone, Android, Linux. All these have settings to tell you that either update or auto update your system. Take advantage of these, especially at home, because that's the place we never think about this. And if you're on the IT team, if you see one of these new high severity or critical severity vulnerabilities, please treat it as the utmost importance to understand your risk and addressing and patching those systems that have those, because the bad guys know when something like that comes out, they have a window, and they're going to work as hard as they can to act as quickly as can to take advantage of that, because they have this very short window to do it. So here is something that looks like a bunch of jargon. Well, it kind of is. This is what a compromised website looks like, and how you would say, I don't even understand what that means. Well, this came from a web server log after the system had been compromised. When they do analysis, well, you can actually deobfuscate or make this readable, if you will. So if we take that code and we deobfuscate it, we see a bunch of this stuff, but the stuff in red is where our eyes if you're a security person, would be drawn to, because it's saying, hey, whenever I go to this website, I'm going to go to this other website in China, and I'm going to run this script, which usually is where this website is now attacking you. So you've now seen what it looks like when a bad guy has been able to inject something into this system. It's called a system called SQL Injection is how they do it. And they added this command into the middle of this. And now this system is doing the attacker's bidding. And we can see what it happens, what it looks like when this happens, because there was a legitimate connection. So if we look on the left here, the 156, 124 address there has one legitimate connection to the correct address. Same thing with the other address down here, but it makes all these other connections to the bad guy systems, which is now collecting a bunch of information. And these are in Russia and China and Panama and places you don't want your data going. So how does it all start? The way that most commonly now this happens, that was kind of the real techie speak. We're not going to do that anymore. We're going to stick with things that everybody deals with every day, and that is they know you're the easiest thing to beat. This graph here shows back in about 2018 where the bad guys realized, hey, we're going to stop worrying about trying to do these fancy heavy-duty hacking attacks. We're just going to attack the users. So that red line is the attacks against users going up, and the blue line is the drop-off of them trying to use malware. So what does it mean? It means people are the easiest thing to beat, and that's where the bad guys are going to go. So when they do that, they're trying to steal usually your credentials. If you read about all these big breaches, well, these credentials eventually get dumped and get stored in these big databases, either on the dark web or eventually on the regular web at sites like Have I Been Pwned? And it will show that amounts of credentials can be associated with particular email addresses. Well, the bad guys will look at those and start using these particular passwords for a particular username that may be a Yahoo account that was stolen, but that same username has an account at your business and it's the same person. And it may be that that person is using the same password everywhere. So what this is really saying is make sure you're not reusing your passwords, especially don't make sure that things like your bank and your work and your credit card passwords and your medical account passwords, those absolutely should all be different. And frankly, all of them should be different. And you shouldn't be using passwords you use in your personal life, in your business life. Keep those separate. So there's the bait, kind of what are the things that you're going to see, right? Okay, this is a real common, hey, Sam's Club, take this short survey, right? And what they're trying to do, they're trying to get you to go and do something on their behalf. They may be somebody who is not Sam's Club. If you look up here at the email at the top, it's called callfold.top. Well, that's not Sam's Club. So this is somebody trying to lure you to their site. Maybe they have that compromised site like I showed you a minute ago, and they're going to attack you that way. Maybe they're going to try to get you to enter some credentials that they'll use later to try to steal your account. There's any number of things they may use. This is one. This comes in through a text message. Hey, this looks like they're going to pay me. CVS is going to pay me to do some work. It's going to be a secret or a secret shopper approach. I'm going to get paid on this. It won't take long. Heck yeah, I'm going to do that. Well, when it looks too good to be true, it is too good to be true, unfortunately. So if you're not expecting this, if you didn't sign up for it, if it doesn't make sense, why are they offering this to me? They're probably trying to get you to do something. In a worst case scenario, they may be asking you to commit a crime where they're trying to get you to go spend their stolen money and give you the proceeds in the actual things you bought. And you have now become their money mule. And you're then potentially putting yourself at legal risk or even the threat of jail. The other one that's common, hey, your antivirus has expired, or you need to update your credit card because your credit card is no longer working when we're trying to run it for the security software or whatever product it may be. This is a common one that people see. Then there's all these, hey, answer and win, just click here and you're going to get a bunch of free rewards, do all these things. Anytime free offers or things that are saying act quickly, you've got 5 days left, there's only 9 remaining. Okay, these are warning signs. Okay, there's no reason a company is going to try to limit how many of these are out there, unless they're trying to get you to act in a very rapid fashion and maybe leave your better judgment at the door. There's ongoing campaigns. Okay, this is one that we see a lot coming in, looking like job offers. So these are very common things that you will see. Probably all of us have seen, trying to get us to, hey, download the app. Well, of course, once you decide to go and download the app, they're going to be actually putting a fake application on your phone. And then obviously, once they have that, they can do pretty much anything they want on your phone. If you see where this is being sent to, this is clearly not a LinkedIn site, nor is it a site for any application. So a bunch of clicks, a bunch of clues on that particular document. You can also take something like a particular address. So if it's giving you a link, you can actually go and test that link. There are places out there. One of those is called virustotal.com. Fantastically useful site. You can submit a file. You can submit a URL, and it can tell you, is this been identified by a bunch of people as a bad place to go? So if people give you a link and say, click on the link, you still think it's real, but you can check it, right? There are ways to check whether that's still a place that you would want to click on or go. COVID bait, they're probably next you're going to see, unfortunately, Ukrainian refugee bait. Hey, please give. Please click here to find out the latest. Here's how you can help. Well, the only people you end up helping, unfortunately, unless it's coming from a reputable organization, then you may not be actually, giving money to anybody that is only anybody but a criminal potentially. So the first reaction whenever you see something coming in and it's like, I don't know who that is, right? It's indeterminate, like happens especially with text messages. And this looks real, right? This looks really like maybe this happened, right? But in fact, they're trying to exploit your sense of anxiety. Oh my, do I need to isolate myself? What do I need to do? I need to find out if this is real. Anything that comes from your bank has to be thought of as suspicious. Now, it doesn't mean that every particular time what they're sending you is correct, but you have to consider it suspect, and you should probably go and log onto their site or call them rather than responding to something in email you don't expect that potentially may be providing information that you don't want. And in this particular case, this could be somebody that has stolen your card and is trying to ask you to stop the particular transaction, but at the same time, it may be providing the information to the attacker where they're in fact allowing you to approve something, and this may not actually be real. The fake Facebook message, it's been around a long time, trying to get you to probably give up your Facebook credentials so they can then steal your account and start doing things with it. Fake Twitter message, hey, I've been infringed upon, detected in one of your accounts. Click here, your account's going to be suspended. As soon as you click to go there, thinking you're going to Twitter, you're actually giving them your Twitter password. You may get the call. I've got a voicemail. Please log on here to get your voicemail. Again, these are things that obviously aren't real because they're coming from things like bcounty.texas rather than a real account. Dropbox is another common one. It's real easy to either have you give up credentials, or maybe what they're actually asking you to download is a piece of malware that executes something when it hits your machine. Another one is trying to get your credentials by saying, I'm sharing something with you. Hey, you've got a file sent to you on SharePoint. Come here. And it says when it pops up, it shows you a screen that looks just like SharePoint, and you enter your credentials in. That's an easy way to get your work credentials, as a matter of fact. Or maybe your friend is compromised. Somebody, it looks like somebody that you know. I know who Kelly Bannon is, But in fact, I know that Kelly Bannon doesn't have a email address coming from a foreign country. So it looks like Kelly Bannon's identity has been compromised, and they're trying to make me the next victim. Again, if you have attachments on there and you don't know what they are and you don't expect them, you probably should not be opening them. At the very least, if you feel it's something that you have to open because you believe it's real, but you're still not positive, you can again take them to .VirusTotal and places like that, or run scans on them before you actually open them. But if you're not expecting something, if it's coming from somebody you don't know, if it's coming from a site that may or may not be somebody that you do business with, don't just open it random. They may have been compromised, and it may be a bad guy sending you a booby-trapped email from their account. You may be getting Zoom stuff. Hey, somebody just logged into your account here. Now, this is one that may be telling you that you need to be worried that, in fact, somebody has logged in. So you probably want to go and maybe not click on these. You probably want to just go to Zoom and log in and read it there, because if you go to change my password and it's a bad guy, it may in fact be somebody that's trying to get your credentials. And again, this came not from Zoom, it came from securityadmin.net. Well, that's not really Zoom. So this is probably trying to steal my credentials here. So what were the things to look out for? What were the things that were wrong that everybody should be aware of here? You should know that, in fact, your real name was not used in the email. You should know that there was no reply to address that was appropriate. So commonly it will have a reply to address that is incorrect. It may have an reply to address that is not who you would expect it to be replied to. It may be using blind carbon copy for all recipients, which means, hey, my name is nowhere on here. It's not to me. It just says it just came into my thing because I'm one of the blind carbon copy people. That's a dead giveaway that this is probably a phishing email of some kind. There's grammar and spelling errors that can commonly be found in these. So you see things that read like somebody doesn't have a good grasp on the English language, or frankly, it's somebody that doesn't understand really how it would be written for a particular business, and it sounds fishy or funny. Every one of or half of those emails had big giant banners across the top saying, this email is from the outside of your company. And if it's an email that's coming supposedly from someone inside your company, and it says it's not, that's a dead giveaway right there that clearly this is probably coming from somebody that's impersonating somebody inside your company. And if you didn't expect this stuff, if this is something that just ended up rolling in through the front door and you're like, wow, this is a great offer, but I didn't sign up for this. They don't know who I am. It's coming from an organization that how would they know who I am? At the very least, it's just a solicitation for money or an ad. And at worst, it's probably a bad guy trying to trick you into do something on their behalf. So what are the kinds of things that we need to worry about? Well, the phones have become a significant area of risk. And one of the ways that the bad guys do this is through a method called SIM swapping. So this sounds really esoteric, but this is where they will talk to the phone company and convince them that they have taken your phone number, they've bought a new phone, and they want that your phone number transferred to their new phone. And if, for example, you give up enough stuff on your Facebook page to where the questions that your phone company might ask, like, where you were born and your mother's maiden name, then they can use that stuff and potentially talk the phone company into switching your calls over to their phone. That then allows them potentially to receive all your phone calls. It can also receive your two-factor authentication, those SMS codes that maybe get sent to you. They can now see those, and they can then potentially get your bank account if they've already guessed what your password is or it's stored on your phone. That they can then use that information to hack into things. They can also receive all your corporate emails if they're coming in. And what we've also seen them do is there was a house in the Ukraine that the Russians were running an operation. This was uncovered about 2 weeks ago, where they had 10,000 stolen SIM swapped cards, and they were running a giant disinformation campaign where they were sending out millions of SMS messages, sending out disinformation, and trying to tip public opinion through 10,000 SIM swapped cards, all living in one house in a place in Ukraine. You can lose things like your cryptocurrency as well, because a lot of people are using their phones as methods of moving cryptocurrency around. And if you're receiving codes that way, you could also end up losing a lot of money. There's the kinds of things that can happen on your phone. So we know your phone is a computer like everything else. The bad guys are going to be coming after your phone, and they may also say, you know what, I can't get onto their work computer, but I can get onto their phone, because they're using their phone to look at Facebook, look at Gmail, maybe go looking around to gaming sites that may not be the, gaming tricks and hack sites that may not be necessarily as clean as they could be. And something gets onto your phone, and then they know that's a method then to potentially get to your PC, because most of us at some point are plugging our phones into our PCs. Well, when you do that, you should be doing it one way and one way only, and that is by setting it only to charge the battery. Because if you don't do that, you make that two-way connection. Now you're allowing things that are on your phone, which is probably not as secure as nearly as your laptop or your workstation, and the things that are on your phone can now go over that cable and attack your system. So a lot of this malware is now designed to kind of sit there waiting to attack at that moment you finally do plug in your computer. So one thing you probably don't want to be doing is plugging in to move your pictures or your videos from your phone to your work PC, right? That's not a good idea. If you need particular photos on your work PC, email them to them, or transmit them in a way that's just moving the pictures and not actually creating a connection between your PC and your computer. But it also goes the other way. It doesn't mean that the bad guys haven't figured out that, hey, maybe the easiest way to move my malware around is to get on Windows things and then affect the mobile devices. And we also know that there's other malware set up to infect mobile devices. For example, you need to be concerned if you're going into some place where you're plugging in where it says power up your USB devices here. That's actually a pretty easy way to compromise any system. So if I'm in an airport and I've compromised one of those plugins, and there's actually small devices that are easily attached. If you've ever seen how those ones on the seats at the airport are, you can reach behind and unplug the cable. So you can plug a device in the middle of there that actually then infects any device that plugs into it. So again, you should be only using it for power. Don't set it up, even if you're just, even if the normal setting might be to connect it to move files, make sure it's not. Make sure that the default is always to default to just power only. So you avoid any of those kinds of threats. One of the other one, of course, is there's apps that have all sorts of malicious abilities built into them. Sometimes they look just like very popular apps. Sometimes they're made to follow a very trendy type of app. And sometimes the trendy apps themselves actually have been compromised. So you have to be very careful about what you're putting on your phones. Certainly what you're putting on work phones should be limited to things that you're doing basically that relate to work. So if it's a work-only phone, it should probably have work-only apps on it, and your personal phone when you're doing the things you would do on your personal phone. Same concepts go with anything that kind of move from one system to another. USB drives are a very common way to attack systems, especially if you're working in a high security environment. Things like government laboratories or things where intellectual property are kept. One way to get in, because they are spending a lot on security, is to trick somebody to take a USB drive that they've been given, they found on the ground, they found at Starbucks, and it turns out that that was deliberately placed there. for them to pick up and then walk inside their building and go, hey, I wonder what's on this. Or, hey, this is a big USB drive. I can't wait to put all my music on here to use at work. And they plug it into their work laptop or their home laptop, and it immediately starts infecting that system. To see how common this was, at a previous company I worked at, we put over 800 of these at various drop points around the US. We did it at cafes, we did it at Starbucks, we did it at airports, we did it at city facilities, and we just drop them on the counter or drop them in a conspicuous spot where people would see them. They were set up to phone home and tell us what happened. And we'd also loaded them up with a bunch of files that said bank account.txt, passwords.txt. Well, it turns out out of the USB drives that were picked up, which was 80% of the ones we left were found, and 80% of those were plugged in. So 80% of the people that saw these actually picked them up and plugged them into something. And then we also had the ability to look and see what they'd done. And it turns out out of those people, 50% of them actually looked at every file on the disk itself. So you don't want to lose them because people are going to pick it up and read anything you have on it. So if you've got stuff like sensitive company information or password lists or something like that, don't do it because they can escape your hands. And don't pick up ones that you don't know where they came from and plug them into a work computer. If you need one for a work computer, they're dirt cheap. Go out and buy a 12-pack, keep them at your side, and use them only when you need to use them for business. The other thing too I mentioned on this one is don't let your kids, if you got kids and they're going to school, school networks tend to be some of the dirtiest places on the planet for malware. They move an enormous amount of malware back and forth when they're sharing phones and USB devices and pictures, in particular in movies and music. So if your kids want to plug their stuff into your work laptop, tell them no, can't do it. What other things out there? Well, a common way to do it with social engineering. I think most of us have probably received one of these calls in the not too distant past. And it's where somebody's calling in to tell you that they're a support rep. And they're basically trying to tell you that they're working for a company, but they need your help. They need you to do something in particular that they want you to do. So maybe they're going to say, hey, I'm here to help you. We've detected that your cable modem is not working properly, that we need you to help us here. Can you please give us the password to your account so we can log in and make sure that everything is okay? It may be any number of things. They may be telling you that, in fact, here's a URL that you need to go to. Let me give you the URL so you can help us debug your system, and you type in their URL, and it's not really Comcast or Breach Cox or Cox Communications. It's actually a site branded to look just like it that they're trying to get you to give you your password. Or maybe the one where someone's in trouble. I personally received one of these, or my wife actually did, I should say, this weekend, where a call came in saying, hey, grandma, I need your help. I'm stuck, and it was somebody, and of course, it turns out that my wife and I don't have kids, so we don't have grandkids. So it wasn't hard for my wife to immediately go, please stop bugging me and, stop doing what you're doing to people. But it's a common one to call and say, or maybe, hey, I'm a friend of your grandkid. They hurt themselves. There happen to be, we're out in the woods on somebody else's ATV. Their leg's broken. They're at the hospital. They need money right now. Please send money to this address, right? So anything where somebody's calling you and asking you to do things on their behalf, it's usually better first to say, where do you work? Okay, I'll call you back, and then call the company back, have them route you to this particular person. Or make sure that, in fact, you're not doing things that they're telling you to do without understanding, in fact, these are things that you would do on your own and are not going to benefit them when you do them. The most famous one is probably the, hey, I've got a big inheritance, or I've received this big access to funds, but I need you to help me get it out of the country, or I need you to spend it for me, or whatever it may be, or this deal where if you just send us a couple $1,000s as a processing fee, we can then send you your $20 million that we found that was bequeathed to you by your long lost aunt or uncle or whomever. So it's they're famously known as Nigerian 419 scams. That has to do with the phone system that they would use originally to run these scams. But this is still happens. I still get these emails. You think eventually they would dry up, but they don't dry up because people still fall for them. It's not too much different when you're thinking about romance scams, which are also very common to try to talk you out of money by convincing you they're doing something in your best interest. So again, here's another one: silent angel investor. Yeah, we want to give you money. We want to support you in your new business. Well, how do you even know who I am, let alone want to give me money? Oh, well, let's see how this goes. So this would be what would happen if you start kind of actually responding to these. And here's one. Oh, we got the money transferred. That's Jeff Bezos. We know Jeff Bezos is always trying to reach out to me personally since we're such good friends. So why is Jeff Bezos reaching out to you, and why is it undisclosed recipients, and why is he trying to give me money? All these things should be bringing up huge red flags, right? But the other ones that are a little bit more scary is when they say, "Hey, this is a collection against you," or there's an arrest warrant out for you, and we can prevent that arrest warrant for going out as long as you pay this money, but you got to pay it right now, right? If you don't pay by today, there's going to be legal repercussions. In fact, you may go to jail. Okay, this is a classic use of threats to get you to do something on their behalf, send you money. Of course, if you have no idea what this is, it certainly is not going to be the last one time you have to rectify this problem. And if you think in any way that you may have something, still don't follow up on this. Follow up through normal channels. Do not follow up through using this. But how do we know kind of that this is, again, something that is a phony? Again, it's to them. And everybody else, again, is a blind carbon copy, right? We talked about that. Blind carbon copies are an easy way to send out to 1 million people when it makes it looks like it's sent just to you. So they're saying, we're coming after you, pointing a finger at you, but they're not sending it to you. In fact, they're blind carbon copying it to maybe 250,000 email addresses, right? All they need is a few of them to respond, and they make their money. This is a common one. This was an Apple version of, maybe you've been surfing the internet and all of a sudden your browser pops up this, "Hey, computer warning. Looks like your computer has a virus. We can help you. Call us now." Or download our app. We've got the app that can remove that. Or maybe you need to update your antivirus. Your antivirus is out of date and it's flashing. Well, that stuff doesn't come through your browser. Okay, you're never going to get a computer virus alert that is going to be popping up through your browser. The only time that happens is when something pops up, usually by the whatever antivirus you have. It'll have their own alert in the corner of the system, and it'll be a system level alert. You will not see it here on your screen. There's a very common similar one that you'll see in the Windows world, where your screen has all red and it's just bright red browser that's got a bunch of threatening stuff and saying, "We can help. Just call here or download this." Work at home scams. What are they trying to do when they're getting you to work at home? This is where they're trying to talk you into take their dirty money, go use it someplace, and then send them the goods or the converted money into another form back to them, and you take a cut. Well, you are taking a cut because you're a money mule and you're acting illegally, laundering money on the behalf of a bad guy. Okay, very few work from home jobs exist, and I'm sorry, that are the kinds of things where you advertise in a common business journal or some kind of thing like that, where in fact you actually just can go start a business at home, right? Because without having something you're actually know that you're selling, a service you're selling, then they can talk you into doing things on their behalf. All right, this is a check that came in. This is how they can get you just through the regular old mail. This came into Mike Hamilton, and this company contacted him and said, "Hey, please cash this check for us, and you can keep the 850 and send us $1,000 for your work." That's since it was issued. That's the easiest way for us to move this forward. Of course, you can go cash this because, in fact, it has all the hallmarks of a real check. It's actually a counterfeit. It will basically the bank, if you have enough funds in there, will give you the money, and then 3 days later tell you it was no good, and then take the money back out. Well, of course, by that time you've sent 1,000 of it to a bad guy. You've basically lost $1,000. So this is real. This is came into our co-founder Mike Hamilton, our CISO. Yeah, that's how this stuff happens, right? So how do we avoid these outcomes? What are the lessons again we want to be learning here? Do not follow every link you receive in personal email. Frankly, don't follow every link you receive that comes into your business email account, because all they need to know is your email address to send you something with a malicious link. Beware of fake apps. And remember, even apps that are not fully weaponized to be delivering malware, a lot of them are still there for other reasons. And that is to track you, to understand what your behaviors are. If you don't want them to know what you're doing on a day-to-day basis, which in fact can be used ultimately to even hack your password, because you start learning things about somebody, you can start figuring out the kinds of things they might choose as a password, for example. So you want to beware of downloading things unless you really know what they are and need them. Be resistant to the things you see. If it's too good to be true, it is. The internet is built for a specific reason, and that is to provide information for purposes, usually to manipulate you in one way or another to do something. Some of the things may be innocuous, a lot of them are not. The more you surf, the more your chances actually of being compromised are. So at least in terms of work, minimize the amount of surfing you do. If you need to go and look at Facebook, if you need to go and you need to look at, a posting of where your kids are doing after school, the Little League or something like that, whatever it may be, do those things on your personal phone. Or just do them on a phone. Don't do them on your work computer. Just stick to the things that work. Our lives are separate enough. Our phones tend to be where we live. Use it. Use that as a way to make these communications rather than using your work computer. And anything that you're doing personal, do it on a personal device, because again, at work we need to watch a lot of what is going on to make sure bad things aren't happening. That means at certain places, depending on their policies and their approach, they may be watching everything you're doing too. So you may not want them to know what's going on in your personal life. Everybody wants to have their own privacy. So consider your privacy as another motivator to do the right thing when you're doing these kinds of things. Don't go around security controls. When people put up firewalls and antivirus and these things that make it so you can't do what you think you need to do, don't find a way around it, because you're finding a way around very expensive things that have been built to prevent bad things from happening. Ask somebody if you need to have something done. Ask, up in your company to say, I need to have this done. Here's the business reason why, and they're likely to find a way to make that happen. But don't try to do it by trying to ask somebody for their password that will allow you to do it for them or something like that. Don't reuse passwords, meaning your password should be different everywhere at this point. You can use things like password vaults to actually store those passwords now, where you remember one long, really complicated password, but it stores your 500 other passwords. That's a good idea. But that way, at least every website you have will have a completely unique password. And you really only need to remember that one. So that's a really good tip, to start using a password vault to enable you to have different passwords absolutely everywhere. And once you start doing that, you can also let your browser or one of the systems suggest an ultra complicated password. And it doesn't matter how complicated it is, because you don't ever need to remember it. So it allows you to really gain a lot in terms of your passwords. Don't leave your computers and company equipment, your phones, unattended. If you're in Starbucks, don't run to the bathroom and leave your laptop out there. And especially don't leave it laptop open and logged in when you run into the bathroom. Somebody's likely to walk up and type whatever they want in there and basically can take over your system just by the fact that you're sitting there logged in, or at worst, they just grab it and put it under their arm and walk out with it. Same thing goes with your car. Same thing goes with pretty much any place, because those are highly desired as things to steal. So don't leave your electronics of any kind where people can get to it. And frankly, if you're putting it in your car, it's probably best, even if you think locking your trunk is okay. If it's got really sensitive data on it, take it into the restaurant or take it into where you're at and take it with you. Don't leave it where somebody could actually just break into the trunk and then eventually steal that from you. And use things like multi-factor authentication. So in particular, that's, again, your phone, your ability to either receive SMS alerts, maybe it's an application that approve or deny access when you're logging in, but using multi-factor, not just at work, but in your personal life, at your bank in particular. Use multi-factor, meaning it's more than just a username and password. It's, I need the app on the phone, or I need the SMS code they send to me, or maybe they're going to give me a phone call and a voice thing is going to give me a code that I type in. Use those tools, because if you do lose your password or it is stolen, because passwords get stolen from places that you store them, it will not mean that everything has been lost. You still don't, the bad guy still doesn't have this other thing, this other factor, this code or this application, and it will prevent losing your credentials from becoming a catastrophic problem. There's also full disk encryption. So especially on mobile devices like laptops, enable things like BitLocker. If your company or your organization is not already doing it and you have the ability to do that, or suggest it at the very least, that full disk encryption be in place, because if somebody does walk out with a computer, they don't have the ability to just pop it open and read every bit of data you have, including passwords that are potentially crackable that are on the disk itself. And whenever something does happen, so I got this strange looking email. I thought better of it, but I did it. I clicked on it, and I don't know if bad things happen. Well, speak up. Okay. The one thing I will say, you're never going to get in trouble for speaking up and saying, I did something I think was not what I should have done. Hey, take a look at it. Let's get it fixed right away. That's you being proactive. It can happen to anybody. Some of these phishing emails are good enough to get me. I've been doing this a long time, but someday I'll probably get popped just like everybody else. So when something funny happens, you see something, you say something, right? Because that enables people to react as fast as possible, contain any damage. And if you see things like, God, my computer is acting really funny, or it's slowed way down. Well, a lot of times when it's slowed way down, it's because they've installed a crypto miner on your box, and your box is doing the work for the people that have compromised it and not for you anymore. So anytime you see something that is strange, unexpected, I'm worried about that, say something. Don't just go, that's kind of funny. Reach out. Okay. That's the first and foremost thing you should do. Jake, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
I have to hit all my mute buttons in order to unmute. Oh, look, and there's the camera, and there's not the camera. All right, everybody. So the chat has been quite alive through this whole thing with lots of things. I do want to call everyone's attention to one really important thing, which is password managers. Fred mentioned them. Somebody asked, hey, do we suggest a brand? We don't actually suggest a brand, but when we started this whole thing, we started doing security awareness training. Two of them out there, 1Password and Dashlane, contacted us and said, hey, here are discount codes for a year free or 6 months free or something, so, we don't recommend them, but if you want those, email me, jake@criticalinsight.com, and I can give you the discount codes. Also, some folks were asking about, hey, if we want to do one for our organization, they do like corporate discounts. They do all those things, and it's great to give them to your employees as well. Okay. So one more thing, which is, do you remember when I said there was going to be a survey? And do you remember when I said that we were able to feed 30,000 people and people donated their gift cards from the surveys? Pretty cool, right? So click on the survey. I know it's ironic after a whole thing of Fred telling you not to click on things to give you a link, but such is life. Please take the survey. Would really appreciate it. The second thing is, I do want to tell you a little bit about Critical Insight. We defend critical services against cyber attack, and that's cities, counties, hospitals, financial institutions, utilities, and the like. And so, when you see the survey, one of the other things in there is whether you work for an organization that wants a meeting with us. Let us know in the survey. Chris in the chat says, was just about to say, because links posted to chat are totally safe. Yes, Chris, because I work in marketing, you can trust me. Just kidding. All right, everybody. Well, thank you for being here today. Thanks for taking the time, and don't forget to invite your friends. Somebody talked about their, having a grandparent or having a parent tricked. Send anybody to the security awareness training. We do it every other Friday. Sometimes you're lucky enough that Fred does it. Sometimes you're lucky enough that Mike does it. Fred, I think, did a pretty good job. If everybody could in the chat say thank you, Fred, like big round of applause, and have a great Friday. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.